So, the discussion today is going to be around the series called 56 Days. It involves Dove Cameron and Avon Georgia as the main characters. So, it basically starts off where boy meets girl in grocery store. They bump into each other, and then they're obviously attracted to each other, and then they start to go on a little walk, getting to know each other briefly before he ends up, oh, the guy's name is Oliver. He ends up asking Ciara, which is the girl, obviously, for a number. And she does so and also adds a list of things that she likes. So after this, they get friendly, they get to know each other. And after she gives a number, she walks away with like little laugh, smiles, everything. But then he has the sinister look on his face when she walks away. And that makes me question, like, why are you looking at her that way? Are you undercover or is there something going on? Because he acting very suspicious for no reason. And then it switches back and forth to the detectives looking at this crime scene where there's a body in the bathtub. And they can't make out who it is because it's basically burnt the skin away of the person. Everything is gone. So they're trying to figure out what actually happened. Okay? So moving back to Oliver and Sierra. So they end up getting to know each other a little bit more. Also end up going on a date and getting more intimate with each other during these scenes. There was also a moment where she ends up going back to his place, and as she does so, after the intimacy, she hears a strange sound, and she goes outside of the room and sees that he is there on the floor doing weird yoga mantras or whatever helps him to calm him to sleep. Apparently, he has a problem. He has insomnia. He can't sleep. So she's like, okay. A bit weird, but understandable. And then, it shows that she's speaking to her sister and they have complications at home with regards to finances. I think because the father left the mother and now they don't have enough money to sustain themselves back home. So Sierra is on a mission to make sure that the family is looked after. And then it seems that she's also the one that's suspicious because I think like she wasn't really into him romantically. It seemed like she's actually using him money-wise. So he mentioned something to her like, okay, he wants to meet up at our place. So she's like, oh my word, my place isn't as fancy as yours. Why don't we meet up at yours? So he's like, no, he doesn't care. He want to go to our place. Okay, so as they do this, she sets up something where she makes sure that he sees the infested apartment that she lives in. And she says that, yeah, they're going to fix up the ceiling and everything like that with the infestation. And she makes as though her alarm on her phone is somebody calling her and to tell her that it's going to take a while for them to fix it up. So she needs a place to stay. So he was there and he's like, okay, you can stay at my place. So she's like, no, she doesn't want to intrude, but that was actually a plan all along. So eventually she ends up moving in with him and they seem to be getting along quite well. So her plan seemed to work. So obviously at this point we all know, okay, so she's using him for his money. And then it gets to a point where he's not at home and she goes to his locker in his closet and she tries to open it up and he finds her there and he's like, that isn't actually mine. It was here when he moved in. So she's like, yeah, she wasn't really looking there. She wasn't trying anything, but it's obviously it's obvious that she was trying because she was looking for any kind of pin that you can get to open the lock. Okay, and then he has a therapist that is helping him with regards to his sleeping problems, his issues, and he doesn't tell him about this girl that he's with, but eventually he does, and the therapist is like, no, you should leave her and everything like that. And he's like, yes, he will leave her, but he lies to the therapist. And then she finds, okay, you speak to this therapist, and why the therapist telling you that you must leave me. So they end up getting into an argument, and she's like, why can't you speak to me instead of speaking to your therapist? And he's like, no, how can you? Because she interrupted the therapy session. So he's like, no, why would you interrupt my therapy session and all of that? She's like, why would you pay somebody to help you when I'm clearly here? So what is the use of her being there? And then he walks away, and then she's like, oh, he's so damaged and this and that. And they end up just getting into this argument. Okay, and then there was also a point where she lied to him and said that she works at this company, and he wanted to go see her at the company that she works. And then he phones and asks her, "Are you here? You are at your job and everything." And she's like, "What?" She was not at anywhere near to a job. So she had to run all the way down there. So every day she gets dropped off, and she just walks through and goes out in the back, makes as though she went to work, but she doesn't actually work there. So it's all a plan. As her name isn't also here, it is actually Megan. And his name is actually not Oliver Kennedy, it's Oliver St. Ledger. So he always gets like letters and stuff, like he's thinking, no, sending him these letters with nothing inside. Um, but anyway, yeah, moving on, and then okay, to the point where she eventually meets up with him, and she bumps into a woman named Jane who's trying to warn her about the guy that she's with. So she's like, you don't have to warn me about anything. I know what I'm doing. And then it also gets to a point where he sees this Jane woman, and he knows her as well. So he finds out that she's the one actually leaving him these letters. So he's feeling a bit anxious at that moment. However, his boss is there with his wife. So the boss actually had like a little crush on Oliver's dad. Um, and I think it fell onto Oliver as well because he admires Oliver the same way he admired his father. And the boss and his wife has a complicated relationship because the wife wants to out Oliver because apparently he's the one that killed Sierra's brother, as they put it in the series. But the boss is like, he's going to protect him regardless because him and the father were really close. So, it gets to the point where they are trying to warn her, like, you do know that you are with a murderer, right? And she's like, yeah, but she doesn't care. She knows what she's doing. And then she goes to the bathroom, and Jane overhears her on the phone speaking to her sister, telling her sister that, yeah, she's going to get the money from him. So Jane's like, oh, so that's why you're with him. You're with him because you also want something out of him, like his money. So she's threatening this Jane woman and telling her to back off because it's not her person as attempt anything like that. And then it also goes to the part where Oliver is like extremely anxious at this point because he's thinking, okay, the previous girl that he told that he killed somebody, she left. So it's gonna be the same with this girl. So he was stressing about the fact that he's probably going to lose her. And then she comes out of the bathroom and they end up going outside. So he's having like a panic attack and everything. And she's like telling him, just breathe. Everything is fine. You don't have to stress about everything. And so she puts a headset on for him, like to block out the sounds around him so that he can just like focus. And then while he couldn't hear anything, she ends up telling him everything about her that's true, her real name, the reason why she's with him, what she wanted from him, and how she used him. But it got to a point where she actually fell for him. So before all of this, she actually, while she was in the house, she made sure to send over $100,000 to her family to pay off their debts. And so he never found out that she actually did that because she covered it up as a charity. After that, she ran away. So he was confused, like he got home and she wasn't there, was looking for her. And then eventually he went to her job to find out if she's there, and they're like, so he's like, is Sierra here? And the woman at the receptionist is like, Sierra, we don't have a Sierra that works here. And then he was so confused because he's like trying to figure out, was she actually lying to him? He went to her apartment and he said that they fix up the infestation and everything. Is everything sorted? And the person that lives there, the apartment, was like, we never had any problems like that. And that's when he figured out, oh, she actually lied to him. And before this, the boss's wife also warned him that your girl is lying to you before she unfortunately got knocked over. And then it goes back to the investigation. So they were trying to figure out, is this the girlfriend that passed? This is in the investigation takes place in Oliver's apartment. So it could either be that Oliver killed Sierra. So that was the assumption. But then they found that the DNA actually belongs to a guy, like a male. So they were thinking if it's Oliver, probably. So Sierra, she gave the money to her parent, to her mother and sister, and the sister was like, oh, you. So she found out that she's actually with Oliver, the one who supposedly killed their brother. She's like, how can you be with this guy? The guy killed our brother and he sent him to jail and everything like that. She's like, he's not actually like how you think he is. He's actually better than that. And you got to know him. And so this is like, don't tell me that you're fat in love with the guy. So she's like, she did. And that the sister wanted her to end him, if you know what I mean. And she said, okay, she'll do it. Because the sister was going to do it herself, but so she said, no, she will do it. And then she told her that he's actually seen a therapist, and the sister knew who the therapist was. Come to find out, the therapist doesn't actually have any kind of license or anything like that to be a therapist. He just gave Oliver these medications and all these things to make him sleep. And then it cuts to a scene where they show what actually happened, where the brother got into the fight with this other guy, and then Oliver jumped in and actually drowned the guy. So Oliver put it on to Paul to say that it's Paul's fault that that guy died, even though it was Oliver's fault. So because of this, they sent Paul to jail, and then Oliver spoke to this therapist, told the therapist a part of the story, but not everything, and gave the therapist a letter where he actually wrote the truth. The therapist read the letter and he found out what was actually happening. And till this day, he kept that letter. And when Oliver said he doesn't need his help anymore for anything, the therapist got a bit upset, and he said he kept the letter and he's going to use it and actually take Oliver to jail and everything. And then Sayeda heard all of this and she knocked the therapist out. And so that is where they figured out that she actually knocked him out, like his lights were out. Then she phoned the sister, and the sister gave him a solution to how to hide the evidence. And that's how the therapist was the one who ended up being in the bath scene where they were trying to figure out whose body it was. And then they never actually found Oliver and Sierra, as they actually went, I think they went to Mexico if I'm not mistaken, and they actually got away with everything. They actually lived happily ever after. They got a child. Everything was just, it happened so fast. So yeah, that's basically the whole part of the series. This is all I had to say about 56 Days. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Comment, like, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.